investigation together. After a moment of silence, I'd like Mr. Ganger to lead us to the pledge of the flag.
Everyone, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Ganger.
Yes.
Yes, I can't get my agenda. I've got June 4th. First thing is Jonesboro School update. Landon?
Mr. Gainer is going to have some comments, and you might want to look at the screen and see if this is the scheme that was sent to me from Town Jonesboro today.
The reason I'd asked for this to be on the agenda originally was I'd had a meeting June 15th with Ken Ross, Jay McCusker, Tommy Burleson, Todd Wood, Josh Kite, Danny Good, Rachel Conger, and Bob Browning. And I wasn't paying attention, and we had a meeting yesterday as well. But the reason I'd asked for this to be on the agenda is to update everybody where we were at. But I didn't realize we were going to have a meeting yesterday at the time as well. So what I'm about to tell you is going to tie in with our meeting yesterday as well. But the meeting we had with these people on June 15, it was to discuss what we had asked the town to look at, which was the placement of the school and the track. And they were just getting input. Basically, the majority of the talk was centered around the track and whether the system really wanted one or not. And they kept reverting back to a competition track, and that's 8 lanes, and it's kind of an official track, I guess. But I told them, I said, well, the board never discussed a competition track. We want a track. And I told them my interpretation of a track was 4 laps is a mile, you know, and that we just, the kids use it to walk, whether it's before school, after school, during school. And the board just felt like it was a vital part of the school to have that. And so we bounced around different ideas, and Josh and Danny put their 2 cents worth in, and there was discussion going back and forth of whether there was money to rubberize it or not. Would asphalt be okay? And Danny and Josh both let it be stated that an asphalt track is fine, but it's not good for any kind of competition if we were to do track meets at Jonesboro, because when you got a rubberized track at Boone and Crockett, why would you use Jonesboro's? But in the scheme of things, they were worried about getting it placed with whether it's 8 lanes, 6 lanes, or just an asphalt circle. And that was kind of their compromise, was would you all be okay with an asphalt circle and not necessarily laned and everything else? And Danny did kind of step up and say, well, he did step up and say, you all originally asked us what was the minimum we would need for this school, and we told you a softball field, a baseball field, and a football field with a track. And they were receptive, so I don't know where really we're at with it as far as the committee. It wasn't really necessarily brought up in yesterday's meeting with the design committee, but now that we know the location of the school, which will be there on the west end near North Cherokee Street, now that they know that, they can start working with the fields and stuff and seeing how they can lay them out and see how it's planned. And if anybody has any questions on the track, I'll be happy to try to answer it.
What is that rectangular building or what placement there right underneath the parking lot?
Practice field.
Practice field.
Is that, Todd, is that track, so is the track, even though it's not like round and competition style, is that a mile right there?
No, the one
Or
they're,
is it a quarter mile or whatever?
the one they're talking about would not be if they just did that asphalt round, because it wouldn't be 4 laps as a mile. And this is the first, to be honest, this is the first I've seen of this too. I guess Dr. Flannery got it sent to him today.
What's the options on this? I mean,
Well, one reason they said they didn't want to do a regulation size track is, one, the cost, and two, taking up the room. It could eliminate a ball field if we had to use that. And they were thinking if we didn't use a track, they could reuse that money that was gonna have to be spent and turf the field, the football field, if we chose to, or, you know, there's some different scenarios, but, you know, we kind of stuck with, we need some kind of track going around the football field. And that's really for the kids, during PE time, morning miles, you know, different.
but I guess another question, are you picking, when you do that, are you saying track's not as important as football?
No, their logic behind it is, they want to sink money into the Jonesboro Middle School track and make it better. And, which I told them, you know, this system is, you know, we don't want to transport kids to a new site, you know, to a different site to do a sport. We're trying to get away from that best we can, because we have to do it too much as it is now.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a good selling point to us as a committee.
Well, that's gonna become their park, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
They take over.
They're taking that over.
So, I mean, that's,
Talk.
go ahead.
I'm not as worried about it being a regulation track or not as I am looking at Boones Creek, what we just done, is, will there be any playgrounds from anything? I mean, if we save money there, will there be playgrounds? I mean, is that figured into all this? or-
Yes, yes.
There is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because, I mean, really and truly, you need to have a playground. If you're worried about the
That's-
track for the older kids, you know what I'm saying? The younger kids need the playground equipment and stuff like
And-
that too, so.
I don't know if you can tell, like, right in the back side of the school building and just to the left corner, there's kind of a little
Box.
clover looking thing.
Where at?
Like right in there,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure that's it, but right in that area, they had expressed that that could be one place a playground would be going. And,
I mean, just don't, if we do lose a competition track, we ought to make it up somehow, you know what I'm saying, to make sure there's a minimum standards of what we want on all this stuff, it really.
yeah,
And Chad, they already have the CDC little play area outside their room and the pre-K. Because
Well, I
they
mean-
have to have special equipment that can't be.
Well, I know, but it's just like Boones, I just don't want it to happen like Boones Creek, it's just nothing there. You know, we've got
Well,
somebody
they
give us
mentioned
this.
down below, where the school, down below there, below the practice field could be a playground.
Like that little, is that what Todd was talking about, the
Well,
cluster?
Well, see, they've got that little area there, but I don't think it needs
Understand.
more
She
than
can
that.
see it over there.
It needs
Oh,
more
I'm
than
sorry,
that.
right in there is where I
Yeah.
told them,
Playground right there.
right there.
But it even need to be more than
Says playground
that.
and flow practice field.
You know, and it's like I said, this is the first time I've seen this layout too, so,
Yes.
I don't know if it's something they've whipped up now that they know the site, location. And the committee yesterday voted on that site, and, they went over it being in the, yes, this is with the design committee yesterday.
Well, let
And-
me ask a question. To the left of the school, is that Cherokee Street? Is that
Yes.
what's coming from the 4 lane?
Yeah, right there,
Right there.
that's North Cherokee, yeah.
Number one, my biggest kick is safety.
Okay, they covered that, and if you want me to go over with you.
Yeah, I mean, and
They-
the number two thing is, where's the entrance coming into the school? How many cars can line up around through there? Because
Okay, I'll touch
my
on all
opinion
that.
is There's gonna be 300 to 500 cars. Car
With-
riders.
With placing, I'll start in the middle, with placing the school in the middle, and Mary Beth, Phil, if chime in when you want, with placing the school in the middle, you have to use some retaining walls, and that was gonna add some costs. You were losing some parking spaces. And also you'd have ball fields on both sides of the school, which means you would have to have concessions and restrooms on both sides. So it was adding costs there. And then if you put it on the far side, which they call the east side over here, you would lose even more parking, and the retaining walls become more, and they were looking at I've been told $500,000 to $600,000 spending for retaining walls, as to where in the front, there would be no retaining walls, or very minimal, I'll say.
Well,
And
aren't they still planning on buying 50 acres? Was that what, I mean?
48 is what I
This is
originally heard.
48, isn't
Well,
it?
I understand, we got 50 plus acres at Boone's Creek, and
I mean, the whole thing here is putting it in the front. One is, their safety is the opposite of what we're thinking. Their safety is,
I think we're the school board, we should have the call on that.
I'm just trying to tell you what their logic on the safety is. And it's that the SRO will be able to be here in the school and still, instead of being out there directing traffic, and the traffic flow will go on its own without the SRO having to be out there. And if something was to happen and you need EMS or police or whatever there quickly, their response time, and this is involving the Jonesboro Police and Washington County, they like it safety-wise, being able to get to it quickly with the school there as opposed to all the way back here, and they can see what's going on better as opposed to it being way off the road.
Hey, Todd,
Feet, there's the jail.
is that, if I'm reading the top of that up there, it looks to me like the cars are going in around that roundabout all the way down that thing and back in, is that right?
Yes, I
Because it
believe
says
so.
190 car capacity off the street.
Where you see that?
Yeah, and that was, yeah, stacking cars for pickup. If you put it back here in the back, they said you'd lose, I don't remember how many cars they said
190 vehicles.
stacking, and in the middle, you'd lose a little less, but putting it all the way in the back, you would lose a lot of stacking for pickup.
How could you lose a lot of?
Yes.
One of Cherokee Street. They're
How would-
outside, you know,
How would you
down
lose
Church Road.
stacking if you got a long way to get back there to the
Is
store?
that the way they're looking at
No, with the school in the front, you're talking about like right in here or somewhere, or
that?
down here? or-
Down the side of Cherokee Road.
They said there'd be, this right here is actually an agricultural learning center, and they're saying very limited retaining wall.
Okay, I was just curious.
And
That's one reason you got so much room in Boone's Creek, you got retaining walls on the whole property. So you leveled it all out. But they spent $1 million.
so with going by what they had said, safety measures and saving money on retaining walls, the committee voted.
I think it's more interested in saving money on retaining walls than it is safety.
Well, it's like I said, you know, they discussed this with the county sheriffs and the Jonesboro police, and they were all in agreement as well. They like a school for safety reasons up closer to the road than they did in the back. But, you know, with those suggestions and talking points, the committee voted unanimously to use the front part of this land for the school.
And what I liked about it is it does have a lot more green space than the one they presented last time, hadn't it? It was like an point. This allows them to have a lot more they can utilize.
You get more parking up front, you get better stacking for pickup, and the potential for more ball fields with it in the front.
Hey, Todd, how much of that parking, you know, 20%, 60%, 80% of it would be used daily for school activities as opposed to athletic activities? Is that your,
For teachers, you mean, or?
for teachers and parents? I mean, I'm just sitting there looking, I mean, that's a lot of parking, I get it. But did they say anything about, you know, what the capacity is, and then what do we normally have at a K-8 this size?
I think it's on there somewhere, parking spaces available and, but I could never see it. But for some reason, I wanted to say there was 190. I don't know if that sounds,
It's 190.
That's the stacking lane.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
one area. That one ninety is just one area.
That's the drive.
Yeah.
Right here, I think, Don,
Yeah.
I think it says general parking, 250 parking spaces plus 76 parking spaces. Plus, if you can zoom in on that, it tells it.
and you know, they're taking in consideration that teachers like to park closest to their room and whatnot, so,
View.
Dr. Flannery, how many staff members would there typically be at a K-8 this size?
This one, at least 65 teachers.
Would you say 65 teachers?
Plus janitors, cooks.
It'll take
That's
100
96.
adults to open that school. And if you look at aides, administrators, everything, like 100 jobs like more. It'll open.
I've had people ask me too, during the day, will Jonesboro be operating, will the school, during the school hours, it's the school that will have the use of everything, right? That's in the contract, okay, that's what I thought.
so that's all I was gonna report to you all. And, like I said, we had that meeting yesterday, and the design committee voted on the site location, so.
So where's the front of the school, at the front of the
Where that awning
Cherokee Street
is.
there?
You got two different entrances already.
That one's the awning, where they come in. Who's got the,
And they're,
Looks like there's
Where
almost
you at?
500 parking spaces.
right, is that what you're talking about?
no,
Front.
I guess that would be from where the
Yeah, I'm thinking
awning
right
is.
there's the
Yeah.
main entrance.
Yeah, see the little cover.
That's where your drop-offs, I think, will be.
So the bus is coming in right there?
And now the bus will have a different drop-off than the kids. I think one of them might be right there, is that not? Do y'all know?
Yeah.
And I think maybe the bus is coming there, I think. Maybe the cars is there.
And this other corner closest to North Cherokee is where the CDC kids were going.
Over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And pre-K, they're separate.
What's,
buses.
Keith, what safety was you concerned about?
Just
I mean, motor vehicle
all of
safety
our
or?
other schools is back off the road.
Yeah, so then what's the?
And I've always, this board has always pressing safety and put the schools back away from the road. That school, you're sitting right there, right on the street. Kids, I'm sorry, but I can't.
Well, take into consideration this Thomas, I think it's Thomas Meadows is the name of that road right there. That eventually could possibly tie in a road to the Boones Creek Road. So that could eventually be a main road, which would be going right by your school if you had it back here. And that would actually alleviate a lot of the traffic that would be coming there one day if it ever did happen.
What was the question at hand for tonight?
There was no question. I was just updating. I just asked for it to be on here.
Are we supposed to do anything about the track or just?
No,
Well, they did listen to some of our suggestions.
Uh,
Well, it was right beside it. Well, at one point, could we not have fencing around? Is that not a possibility at one point?
Whatever, yeah. We don't have nothing to say about it.
Well.
they had talked about, like right in that area right there where the CDC would be, having a nice wall, yeah,
Yeah.
to kind of restrict them a little bit, yeah, to where they could, their play area and off the road and make it a nice little area.
They
You
have
start
certain
bringing-
guidelines
You
that they
start
have.
bringing 1,000 kids in there, and school buses, how many buses have we got running up there?
1,000 kids, you need to run 11, 12.
All right, you're gonna bring 11, 12 big school buses in right there. Plus, if you don't have another entrance for the cars and the car riders to come in and out, are you gonna bring school buses and car riders in at the same place?
But they
I mean, I'm just saying,
I know, and they are factoring all this stuff in. Trust me, they've met, Dr. Flanagan will tell you, they've met with the principals, they've met with central office staff. I mean, they have had numerous meetings on correct ways of doing this. And they've met with Jordan Hughes, Boones Creek, since that's the newest school we did, the plus and minuses of the things that she's seen there. And so I'm pretty confident they'll have, you know, the routes figured out and the ins and the outs and the separation of the buses and the cars.
The bus drop-off, according to this, is on that bottom side down there, where they, no, that special, the pre-K place,
In there?
no, down, bottom side, yeah,
Right there.
right there where the cursor is, not yours, his.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
it's- that says bus drop-off and pickup, that's administrative parking.
So they'll probably, buses will probably come in from right there, as it say?
Well, it says there's 58 car places plus 6 places, so there's 64 parking places right there. So that's gotta be a pretty good
Yeah.
area for 64 car.
So that's probably where they're dropping the kids off buses there.
It says
and then
bus drop off and pickup, and then that's a car line.
Yeah, that'd be the car line going around there.
Yeah.
So
So
they'd be
does
separated.
anybody else see the fact that the bus route and the CDC drop off and pick kind of overlaps?
I see it.
What'd she say?
I don't know.
She's saying,
The-
does anybody
yeah.
see that the bus
Is
and
with
the
the CDC.
CDC is together, yeah.
But now, how much CDC, that you took a lot of those out and put them at Boones Creek, didn't you, Dr. Planner?
We did.
So how many CDC?
They've got 5 rooms built in.
That's two different ones. It's hard to say what.
Oh, they have 5 rooms still
They've
now?
got 5 rooms in the plan.
But I mean, they don't have 5 rooms
No,
now.
no, they don't now. I see what you're saying in the future. Right now, in their plan, it shows 5
There's
rooms.
not enough CDC at the current Jonesboro schools to put that much in that.
Yeah,
But what happens 2 years from now?
right. But I mean, if you was talking today, they got 2 classrooms,
They would.
really?
call Mindy if you want that.
I mean, but you're talking 30, 40 kids in, right?
So this-
CDC, not more than about 10 per room.
So 30.
Are there a chance that we can get the architect to come in here and talk to us,
Well,
or we just have?
I asked about that, and that was the whole reasoning behind the design committee, to keep from going back and forth, so, and that was brought up, you know, at the beginning of the discussions of this. That's the reason they had the design committee, was so the 3 board members would have the say, you know, coming from the board, and then whenever what was said would go back to the board through the design committee members. And that way you wouldn't have the board wanting to meet with Town of Jonesboro and the architects and,
I can understand that, so this is the first time we've seen this drawing, and we have concerns about it.
We saw it for the first time yesterday.
Okay.
We saw 3 other drawings last month.
Yeah.
One of them, I may go up
Here
front
you
and
go.
show you.
you want this, Phil?
No, I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Well, they can't see you over there on that other side.
Okay, one of them showed a building right here in a V shape, okay? Right up next to the road, and it was simply a V-shaped building. None of us, I think I speak for Todd and Mary Beth, none of us like that at all. It pushed the whole school right up here, and we're talking, Dr. Flannery, 1,000 kids. And for me, and what little I know about schools, that was a major mistake. Personally, I like the orientation of this building. I don't like the U-shaped building, but I like it better than the V-shape that was pushed over here against the wall. But if you can imagine a building right here that's in a V-shape, and that was it.
It's much improved, but Annette,
Is
we
the
can
gym at the
relay,
backside of it?
Yeah.
we
Yes.
can relay your
Yeah, yeah.
concern and ask at their next
Right there.
meeting.
Apparently Mindy's
Yeah,
watching.
also
Yeah.
concerned,
Cafeteria.
CDC class.
We kept hearing.
Same area.
What else?
so I'm
There.
also concerned that all, like the middle school special ed is on the bottom floor of the little kids.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
I'm concerned that in these, when you look at the floor plans, the middle school special ed is on the little kid floor. They need to be with their kids. They're
Okay, that's interesting.
What you saying now?
The CDC for the older kids, the middle school, is on that first floor where all the younger kids are.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, do you have Mindy, did you say?
She's watching, and she said that it was, that's the same as she enforces it.
Does she have a comment? She,
To address that.
yeah, Dr. Myers, do you have an opinion on the CDC being all on the first floor?
She'll probably respond.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about that. That might be
But while we wait on her, you know, that was, like Phil said, that was, yesterday was the first day we had seen this design, but taking into considerations, the retaining wall and the cost that we're having to do and everything there, and the safety, I think, and the layout, this was a better layout. Everybody on that committee was pretty happy.
Is this thing eventually will come in after 32,750? You got any idea?
Oh, I don't have a clue. We'll play with that tonight.
And I will say this, that team of people are trying very hard to keep the cost down.
Every day you'll probably on the first floor. Okay. Dr. Myers would prefer to have 100% of her program on the first floor, accessibility.
okay.
Pretty sure that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So, but that's all I got, unless there's other questions.
The reason they sent me this today is because there's a pretty considerable school farm in this,
They were getting grants for those, weren't they?
A lot
Yeah.
of money involved.
Yeah.
They were bringing down several crops.
Grants and art agriculture, like a farm.
This is orchard area.
Yeah, they- where it's real steep down there toward the bottom.
Farmers
out there,
market.
down
They're gonna pay for
Oh.
itself.
there we lean there for that.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right, over on the left is where the actual garden is. And that won't happen unless they get that.
Hay Faker Garden,
I hate to hold it, but yeah,
1,000 kids though, that wouldn't be too
it
bad.
wouldn't be too bad, it's gonna be hard.
Think you'd have any planes left?
Your banker don't sound like much when you start holding.
But I think moving forward, I would like Dr. Flannery to, if you would, check on the track issue. 'Cause I mean, if they've sent this, and I'm assuming that's their track right there.
That's not the shape he came up with.
You know, they were talking that, you know, 15 feet, you know, at the angle of the end zone. I mean, so I would like to get some clarification on that, because I'm not real big on that myself.
What we saw yesterday was the school and the parking and the stacking along the top. We didn't see any drawings of any of the rest of the property on what we saw. So today's the first time I've seen this. The other drawings have had 4 softball, baseball fields, and I see this one only has 2. So today's the first time I've seen this drawing of the sports fields.
It's 12 foot wide, it says on the drawing.
Okay, so
Hey,
Track,
another
the
issue.
track 12 foot wide.
That's what it says, yes.
$450,000 the county's gonna have to pay to take care of 2 ball fields?
That's not up for our discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Sure that Mitch?
What'd you say?
I see
He just writes the checks.
$450,000 going to have to pay to take care of 2 ball fields?
Follow the commission.
But that's all I got, just an FYI for y'all.
Go bring me a diabetes.
Okay.
Good job.
Is that all you have, Mr. Ganger?
That's all I've got.
Anybody else have anything?
Well, just a question for the design committee. So what's the timeline? Did they talk about what?
They
how
said
the
once-
process is moving along?
Yeah, they said once, now that they know where the location of the school will be, they're looking at starting some core drillings and see exactly, you know, what they're gonna run into, you know, soil and rock or anything like that. So I think that's the next step will be start to get core drillings.
So, in core drillings, and school design, all that's probably, what, 6, 7 months out before they finalize it? I'm just trying to
Yeah.
think when they would start construction, which is gonna dictate when we would end up
Well,
moving into the school.
at one time I'd heard, and I don't know if they were joking or what, but they, Mr. Ross was asked when this would get started. And they were hoping to break ground in September, and I don't know if that was, a lofty goal in mind, or if that was just, you know, a tongue-in-cheek type laughter thing. You know, it was just kind of off the wall, comment, but.
I mean, it's a 2-month construction project, so, a 2-year construction project.
Ready to go after the bid service,
Anybody else?
I bet good money against September.
I would too. I mean, I didn't take it real serious, what he said, but, it's like I said, I didn't know if he was being serious or
Did you come out with it?
being, you know, just funny.
That's going.
From start to finish.
That's what typically is.
Right, and they aren't gonna have near the.
That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have anything? I told you. I could sit here and it just went blank. Okay. Review and consideration of board policies. I'm gonna turn it over to Ashley.
Okay, we have, I think, 6 or 7 policies up for second and final reading. The first one is the tobacco vaping free schools policy. Back in February, when we had our last meeting on February the 3rd, you all asked me to change language on line 3 because it seemed contradictory from the first 2 lines. So I talked to Scott Bennett, TSBA, and then looked at the Tennessee Department of Health's sample school policy to draft this one. So changes would be, Scott Bennett wanted us to take out electric battery operated devices, so I removed that. He said that it should fall under vapor products, and then he asked me, he said, could that be a pager? Could that, like, what is an electric battery operated device, for a cell phone? So he wanted it to be more clear. So tobacco products, vapor products, and all other associated paraphernalia, and then I took that language and I put it down at the bottom in the last couple lines. And then throughout, it kept saying these products, which is not clear. So aforementioned products, I added that. I'll give you a second to look through it.
I read through it, yesterday. Why not just use the one from, the sample that it came from?
That would be up to you all. I went off of what the board directed on February 3rd. And in VOE Connect, I've uploaded that sample policy for you to look at.
I mean, it's a little more all encompassing in terms of what you do in your public areas and how it impacts the public. Although I didn't catch the electronic devices.
So what was your question, Mitch?
Well, my question was, is why don't we consider this policy that's on the screen right now? I just thought it was a lot more inclusive, delineated where the responsibility for it, where the responsibility for the enforcement is. It indicated that, visitors not adhering should be asked to leave the property so that, if they weren't, they didn't comply. Posting of signs, et cetera. I just thought it was a much more comprehensive and inclusive
Is
policy.
this already in it? Is it the 1 point, is that what that was?
This is the sample one from
The Tennessee
TSBA.
Department of Health.
Tennessee Department of Health.
It was sent to me from Dr. Black.
Okay, everybody, what y'all want to do?
Is there a reason why you like it? But, I mean, I know it's a lot more wording, it's kind of, but the other one's pretty much straight to the point.
Well, I wish I had 2 screens so we could compare it to
Yeah.
graphs, but, there's some,
Language in the other one,
weak
you like
spots
that?
in the other one. I'm trying to remember where. If you look down at the bottom of the middle paragraph of the tobacco-free schools, the school principal shall be responsible for administering. I mean, there's no discussion of who's responsible in our other one, so if nobody, if nobody's accountable, then ain't nobody responsible.
True.
So, it kind of delineates that. Now, the principals may not like it, but, it's their campus. And, so you've got that. It provides, it references, anytime you have a no tobacco use policy, you also need to have some language about what you can do to help people with tobacco cessation. And I think the draft policy has that. Ours may have it too, actually.
Is this to include like at ball games and things too? That it's up to the school
It is.
principal?
I mean, if you're gonna make it a tobacco-free campus, it's a
Somebody's gonna be-
tobacco-free campus. So, let's not split the baby on it. Let's either go one way or the other.
Are we gonna do these individually, Ashley? Is that what you wanna do, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, let's do it on these 6 or 7 that she's got here. Second reading.
So can we get a overview right quick, exactly what we're voting on?
Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'd like to make a motion, we take the Tennessee Department of Health for the second and final reading.
Okay, I have a motion, take the second. Do I have a second? Second. Second. Mr. Gaines?
Well, I guess my question would be, you're wanting to take the bottom one,
Yep.
that we haven't never done on first reading. Because the top one's the one we got up for second reading.
So you want first and final?
I don't,
That's what he'd have to do, ain't it?
yeah, if he's just wanting to adopt it, you'd have to take it on
Now, is
first
that
and
the
final
one that
reading.
is this the one that the principal's responsible for anybody with tobacco on campus, period?
That's what the Tennessee Department of Health says. The school principal should be responsible for administering appropriate disciplinary action for possessing or using tobacco products, which they probably do today with their kids, with their students, I'm sure, and their staff.
But this is including ball games.
Anything on their property.
Right.
Mr. Murphy has something he wants to ask here.
I'm sorry for coming in late, I was out of town, got in as quick as could. Will this replace completely all tobacco policies?
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
We have years ago, we had a terrible smoking problem. And our current policy has 3 levels of tobacco offenses. The first one is a 5-day suspension, the second one's 10, and the third one is 10 with a board hearing. Now, we've really put a handle on tobacco use in our schools with those 3 levels of punishment. I really hate to see us lose that as a mandated thing that principals do.
I think you'd still have to have,
Well, I would suggest then that in the middle paragraph, it says that disciplinary procedures should start with less punitive consequences. But what that needs to do is just reference those other policies.
Now, I could be wrong
And
here,
then-
but I think that
I would-
this one is related to employees when it's talking about punitive action and disciplinary action. It's for
think so,
employees
too.
inside that
Students.
policy. No, and then the policy Mr. Murphy's talking about is 6.3071, and it's tobacco and vapor use by students. And it just spells out disciplinary procedures when students do this.
So both policies will be there.
We have
Look at
both
the top of this policy right here. Yeah, scroll up to the top. Unless it says rescinds a and it does, it rescinds one, unless it says it rescinds that other policy, then it's still in the student policy. It has to actually say it rescinds something.
Do they contradict each other?
I have a question for Dr. Keys. Dr. Keys, do you and Dr. Flannery feel comfortable with the one that you're recommending that our attorney has reviewed?
I do not. If it is the board's wish that your campus is going to become completely tobacco-free, we will do our best to enforce that wish.
I think we all know that that's pretty impossible.
I'm wondering what we do about a custodian at 11 o'clock at night that slips out back from student aid. I wonder what we do at a Crockett function where there's 75 people smoking in the parking lot, adults.
Well, part of the problem, if I may interrupt, comes in, the deputies that are there to police the area for lawbreakers. They're not there to enforce policy. They don't enforce policy. They don't arrest people that break policy. That's up to our administration.
Well, the purpose of it, to me too, is, they're going outside to smoke, but they stand right outside the doors where you come in. So when somebody else is coming in, when that door opens, here comes all that air, and you smell it inside, and you get it inside. And if the purpose of this, if it pushes them out to the parking lot, 100 more feet, 200 more feet away, then that's fine by me. But the purpose of me is get them out of the doorways, get them out of where kids are seeing them. And as far as employees go, I think anybody we hire, they know up front, and that'll be up to administration on how that's handled. If it's a reprimand, put it on the file or whatever it is, and address accordingly. I think you got to start somewhere.
Well, one thing that Ashley, or Dr. Keys mentioned was that, she had Bennett review the one on top. And of course, he edited it for the electronic battery operated devices. Chad, what I'd like to see us do is take this one, let him wordsmith it a little bit, take care of those little details, and then bring this one back to us.
So should we pass this for first reading, and let you tweak it with the attorney, and then come back for second and final?
There's one right now that's up for second and final, and so I probably, and I could be wrong, but Dr. Flannery, they would reject second and final reading, and we'd start back on first reading with this sample policy from the Tennessee Department of Health.
There is no rule anywhere that says that you can't pass a policy tonight. There's no second reading rule anywhere in the statute. If you want to go straight to a second final reading, anything at all, you can do it right now.
But I think what we need to do is let Scott look this to Tennessee Department of Health, and then bring it back maybe at fall, at the
At the next meeting?
retreat,
Yeah,
or whenever.
What is the date that this Tennessee Department of Health has been uploaded? How long has that been?
It was sent to me, I'll tell you the date. On February 27th.
So it's it's just recent, yeah. Okay.
All right. You want to
I'm
rescind your motion?
Well, I'm gonna change my motion, if David will rescind his second, to just for the first and final reading for the Tennessee Department of Health, to be sent for Dr. Keys and Scott to look at it.
First reading.
Yeah,
Yeah, not final.
yeah, first. Did you get that?
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Well, I'd second, and I'll change my motion.
Okay. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
And Mr. Irwin.
Okay,
Do we need to kill that other one? Or just let it go?
let's wait till we get what he brings back
I mean, oh, the other one there, 1.803.
on second reading.
I did vote yes.
What's that?
When we're reviewing this other policy on second reading, they don't take any action on it, it just sits there.
Just says,
Yeah.
On that big table.
We'll just wait.
We got a lot of stuff on tables.
So we're not doing the roll call.
Go ahead, I just
Just asking me to vote.
I don't
Okay, the
think-
next policy is homeschools.
motion was made to send it back to
you
you.
have to do a roll call vote on every meeting.
I did.
I'm sorry.
Keith's doing.
Yeah, yeah, he called wrong.
Call the roll.
The next policy is the homeschools policy, and there were no changes from first to second reading.
No changes on it.
No changes.
Are we doing this all at once or one at a time?
I'd like to do these, this is on second reading, right?
Yes.
I need a motion.
I move for approval for second and final reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please. Come on, Jim.
This is new to me too.
It's still hung up for me a second.
You will get us to vote electronically.
I wasn't supposed to, but it did.
That's all right.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Irvin.
Aye.
Do allow this later.
Everybody's here? I don't think I had to.
Who made the motion on change?
Okay. Keys.
The next one is 6.207 withdrawals, and it is on second reading, and there were no changes from first to second reading.
Move for approval on second and final reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Hey, how will this work? Just a question, but if you do have some that are outside the system, they won't be withdrawal, right? They'll be online learning?
I don't understand.
Online learning, they won't be withdrawn.
No, this would be for a student, like if they're leaving
Okay.
our district.
So they tell you they're leaving or another school?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yeah.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Irvin.
Aye.
I mean,
Okay, Ms. Keys.
So the next one is released during the school hours, 6.208. No changes from first to second reading.
Move for approval on second reading. 6.208.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Let's talk about that just a second. Is this, as far as ball teams and stuff like that, are we letting them out?
Yeah.
I mean, how early or,
State
I
law
thought we had a
says-
problem with that.
We do, state law says that no athletic team is to leave a school campus without express permission from the Board of Education.
Okay.
And the athletic directors know that they're supposed to petition the board at least 30 days in advance.
not been doing that, but now we're going to do that? Is
We
that
just
what-
started there to spring. That was in the consent agenda.
Okay. All right.
Now-
Huh?
I'm sorry. Is it every field trip and everything, if they're gonna be out early or out every day? That doesn't matter on that, right?
Well, I mean, every field trip has to be, you gotta have parental consent and principals.
But that's different from racing from school during school hours.
Can be.
Okay.
Field
That's
trips
fine.
are educational.
Well, if, you know.
I'm just talking about overnight stays like
If
the
the
varsity.
freshman
Okay.
team needs to get to Kingsport and they leave at 2:30 or 2 o'clock, you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's what I was
Gotta
asking.
have that approved.
This particular policy is talking about when a student leaves our campus unsupervised. And so it has it all in there, like, they can't just go to McDonald's during lunch and come back to the high school, that's not allowed. And get harassed. So that's what this policy contains.
He's keeping it the principal wants them to run an errand.
Absolutely not, it's on here, they cannot run errands. Part of this.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Fleener.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Irvin.
Okay,
Okay, the next one's child custody and parental access, 6.209, no changes from first to second reading.
I have a motion.
Move for approval of 6.209 on second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Fleener.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Earl.
Okay.
Okay, and the last one for second reading, 6.305, student concerns, complaints, and grievances. There were no changes from first to second reading. Mr. Murphy and I have reviewed this one, and it's from TSBA. I sent all of our policies on second reading to Scott to review, and he said we do not need this policy. And so he recommends deleting it. He said that concerns and complaints and grievances would fall under our bullying and harassment policy that has extensive reporting conditions inside of it, and he said, I don't understand why you all have this.
Y'all agree with that?
I strongly concur with the attorney.
Okay, do I have a motion, we discard this?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a
Delete
motion?
this
Do I have a
motion.
second? Need you second it, okay. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Just wait 1 second. Who made the motion?
Mary Beth made it.
Mary
Philip
Beth,
seconded.
Mitch seconded.
Mitch.
Now, is that what, Dr. Keys and Mr. Murphy, you all agreed on that, you said?
Yes, it falls under the other policy, and Scott asked me, he said, what are they gonna complain about here? It doesn't fall under the other. So he recommended deleting our current 6.304, which is the student concerns, complaints, and grievances. And then it will allow them to contact the board.
Hypothetical. Here comes
Okay, everybody. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yeah.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Irvin.
Okay, action.
Okay, we have a few policies up, action for schools. The first one's 2.601 fundraising activities. This policy was revised in August, as part of the legislative update to allow us to do non-educational fundraising for like bereavement or for like mercy funding when someone dies. You do a faculty fund to collect it, and you can see that on page 2. On the top of page 3, you'll see some red language that's marked out. The principals would like that language removed. Scott Bennett has looked at it, our auditor has looked at it, and he says that vending machine revenue can only be used for activities that directly benefit students, can be removed. That's not the correct one. I'm gonna wait till we get to that page so you can see it.
Which one is it, Ashley?
It's fundraising activities. Is
that
it the
would be
wrong
over there.
one?
That's it.
And I might have uploaded the wrong one. Did you? Okay. This is my first radio. Okay, let's go down to page 2. Yeah. So at the bottom of page 2, you see fundraising for non-educational purposes. And so Scott told me to add the language in green for the benefit of the faculty and staff. You have bereavement support, award recognition, employee morale, banquets, and then if you go down to page 3, how are we supposed to do that other than just collecting for teachers? Well, if you have a vending machine in your faculty lounge, that money can be used for it, but you need to say it in your policy. So Scott said we need to add a faculty lounge to line 1, and we can remove lines 2 and 3 in red to allow.
Does this include like flower funds and things that they accumulate, that they pay into, and they have guidelines?
But they can also use vending machine.
Right.
From the faculty.
From the faculty lounge. And so I also noticed in the legal reference 4, that has moved from the public act to Tennessee Code Annotated, so I updated that too. Do you want to wait till law first readings and parts? All right, so if we look at the next one, if you all do not have any questions.
Any discussion on this one? We're gonna move on to the next one. Do all the first readings. Mr. Blaine?
Who is in charge of keeping
Carpet.
the faculty lounge money separate from any other vending machines? Would that be the bookkeeper?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The next one's commercial advertising on school buses. This policy came down in TSBA's February update. TSBA stated that if we allow advertising on our school buses, we must have a policy regulating the advertising. So this is a new policy for us. It reflects changes from the state board policy, and staff recommends passing it on first reading.
Anybody got any discussion about this one?
It's every year they pay for the advertisement fee, right, or we jerk it off?
No, they can renew.
Okay.
And keep them on. I think most of the buses aren't, but they've still got their ads.
Okay, move on.
Okay, the next one, we have field trips, excursions, competitions. TSBA sent this one down as part of their model policy. It was not necessarily a legal update, but they said for best practices. So let's look at page 2. You're gonna see a lot of green language, and their reasoning is, as an extra protection, the TSBA recommends adopting the green language because sometimes teachers might plan independent field trips that are not part of the school system, and this would protect you. So let's say we have a teacher that decides to go to Germany and they're taking students. Parents should not be confused if this is school sponsored, this is not school sponsored. I don't think that would happen here, but they recommend adopting this as a best practice.
It's spelled out though, so they would, and I had a question. Did we have any problems with field trips that were canceled and parents not getting their money back?
Yes,
Did it
we-
come, we did?
We had some vendors that were really, they weren't real energetic about returning deposits.
I wondered if that had been the case because,
But it got handled?
It got handled, to my knowledge, everybody that got money back was supposed to get money back, but we haven't been pushed a few on to.
okay, I wondered, thanks.
Had more trouble with the big ones than
Really?
Some of them still haven't come in, though.
You know, we're still lacking a few, and they're in warehouses all over the southeast of the United States. It was nasty.
The way I read this earlier, Ashley, or Dr. Keys, some of these could be field trips that the board approves are not field trips, but probably planned trips for students, correct?
Any trip a student takes that, where they come in front of you, I'm thinking international trips, it's an approved field trip. And so if you have a teacher who decides, I'm gonna take a group to Germany, but on my own, and I'm not gonna go in front of the school board, and then something goes really wrong, parents cannot come back and say, you're at fault for this.
Yeah.
Because the teacher did not go through the proper channels. It was not school sanctioned.
Like forestry, judging, and everything like that, that still falls under this, correct?
That's a field trip. That is
Okay.
a real field trip, school sanctioned. The only thing I could think of for an independently planned trip where it would fall under this, where they're not going through the proper channels, let's say that, I don't know, a teacher takes a group on her own time to Dogwood, somebody gets hurt, oh, I'm gonna sue the school system, that's a teacher. Well, the teacher did it on her own. She didn't go
Yep,
through the proper
okay.
channels. But it's not a legal update because this is not by law, it's just a best practice recommended by TSBA. So it's up to you all if you want to take the green language.
Yeah, I think we need to put it in there. Get clarified.
So since we've got a lot of green language, I'm gonna ask for a motion that we accept this.
I think if nobody objects to it, I think we just pencil it in with everything else and just do it all together.
It's just, there's so much there, I don't think anybody's gonna object to it either, but I'm just asking for a motion that we,
I'll make that
as a
motion.
board, we accept this.
We pass this on first.
I have a motion and a second, so we're gonna give you a roll call vote on that. And we'll move it on to the next.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yeah.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes,
Mr. Irving.
Okay, Ashley, move on to the next.
Okay, the last one, action for schools, is graduation activities 4.707, after we've had graduation. It came down with the February update. The U.S. Department of Education have released new guidance on school prayer. So if you look at lines 17 and 18, TSBA just wants it to be very clear that the district employees are not the ones doing any prayer. Students are allowed to pray, they've always been allowed to pray, they can pray at graduation, but we can't tell them what to say, and we cannot tell them to pray. And so graduation activities organized by district employees shall not be religious in nature, and they would like to make that change. Staff recommends passing on first reading.
So we can't tell them to or not to.
We can tell them not
That's what it says. Yeah. It says right now in red, you can. Violation of policy.
That normally you have a student who prays at graduation.
So I mean, I think taking that out makes sense.
Everybody good? So we're saying they can or they can't, or we can tell them they can't?
Students can pray. TSBA, when they sent this down to me, the notes said, while students can certainly choose to pray at various times throughout the school day, federal court cases continue to prevent school districts from being directly involved in the religious activities. In particular, this new guidance stresses that boards cannot maintain policies that prevent students from praying in school. And so the way that was written, it looks like students cannot pray. So we need to change it, where district employees shall not organize events that are of a religious nature.
Well, that's according to the Tennessee Code Annotated as well.
Well, it's a federal guideline.
Yeah, that's what I'm, well, federal too.
Those are all that I have for first reading with action.
You ready?
Okay. you read the numbers back and we will do that.
2.601 fundraising activities, 3.405 commercial advertising on school buses, and 4.707 graduation activities.
Move to adopt on first reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Okay.
Okay, we are now in section 6 of the TSBA review.
This calls for celebration. Last, right?
This is our last section, yes. So you're there. Okay, the policy we're gonna view now is 6.306, interference, disruption of school activities, and it is a new policy recommended by TSBA. It references two different state laws. One which gives any professional employee authority over the conduct of students while under the supervision of the school system, and the other shows that schools can suspend and expel students for misbehavior. Staff recommends passing on first reading.
Move for approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. All those in favor, can I do that? All those in favor say aye. on
First reading.
And your policy says any policy matter must be local.
Okay.
You want to hold them all?
Listen, we'll hold off. Go to the next.
Okay, the next one, drug-free schools. TSBA recommends maintaining our current policy, however, upon review, with staff, Mr. Murphy, some language needs to be added. At some point in policy review, some language got removed, and I have the old policy somewhere, and the language that was removed was this blue language. I sent it to TSBA to make sure that it's worded okay, that, you know, we don't have laws and it will violate, and Emily and TSBA said that's perfect, it's fine, it can be there. So students will not possess, sell, or distribute any substance that is substantially similar in color, shape, size, markings, or lack of markings to controlled substances classified in the law. So staff recommends passing on first reading, adding that language back in.
Everybody good?
Okay, the next one is dress code. TSBA recommends their model policy, which is similar to our current policy. Oh, wait. Okay, they changed some stuff around, but not much. They've removed the word modest from line 1. Their policy adds junior high and senior high to the end for schools in lines 3 and 4. They've added in line 4 that the director of schools will develop the dress code with appropriate faculty and principals, and that's important because if you look in line 10, they've removed, or they did not include, the director of schools shall administer uniform regulations. That's where, I guess, the director is involved in helping make the dress code policy. They've removed students from developing dress code in line 5, so students will not be involved. They removed that the code will be distributed either in a handbook or posted at the school in line 6. They changed attire to dress, which is no big deal. They added new language in line 8 about violating set guidelines. And Mr. Murphy and I reviewed this. I looked at the Tennessee Code annotated. I mean, it really fit, and we recommend passing on first reading.
Who is going to find out if something is creating a disruption?
The school principal.
Principal will be like referred, a teacher would refer someone.
Yes, to the office, and then the
Very
principal.
close.
That's,
38
that's
years
very
on that.
subjective, yes. Right.
Well, but you'll have, I mean, lines 3 and 4, more specific guidelines appropriate for each level of school shall be developed by the director of schools. Doesn't say may, it says shall, so there will be guidelines for them to follow. I would think would be, more, informative than the policy says.
We do have administrative procedures, and it goes in the student handbook, and Mr. Murphy
Yeah.
has a team of people, and they make those.
Okay. Annette?
There just needs to be something that's consistent and blanketed over the whole system, because I get complaints all the time that, well, I can wear this here, but this person is getting in trouble, this person gets sent to in school, and they're the same outfits. And so, there's not consistency in the schools across the board.
I agree, I've heard the same thing,
Maybe Mr. Flannery can address that to all the principals.
I do every year, and my predecessors have every year. But you take Principal A and Principal B looking at the same outfit, and Principal A says, no, you're not coming in here looking like that, and Principal B says, you know what, that looks fine to me.
It's subjective, right?
It's subjective.
Right.
I mean, we're not judging cattle here, these are human beings dressed themselves.
And I will say, as a former administrator, enforcing dress code is one of the hardest things, because no matter what you say, you make somebody mad, an angry mama comes in there and says, you're saying what my daughter's wearing is not appropriate, and it's obviously inappropriate. And so, how do you handle that without making somebody mad?
Well, it's not only that, it's like things that other people might perceive as offensive.
Like a
Somebody,
religious message.
right,
It's anti-Christianity. I've seen principals go berserk over that, and others say First Amendment.
and like, especially now, we have the Confederate flag, something like, you know, things like that, or people are finding offensive, and, you know, it is very difficult to, enforce.
This policy would allow the director with a team of people to make those specific guidelines.
Well, could you make the specific guidelines and to both high schools, or, well, I guess it goes to elementary as well, doesn't it?
We have elementary, middle, and high school student manuals, and there's subtle differences in the dress codes there.
Right.
And it's almost, no, not almost, you have to revise it every year because of the styles and the fashions.
Right.
And yes, the Confederate battle flag is a constant source of noise.
Mr. Murphy'd like to say something.
You know, this is really complicated by a little story I'll tell you. We had a certain school, and the principal, very reasonably, we all thought, was telling the girls that their skirts had to be, and their shorts had to be at fingertip level if they put their hands to the side. But these little girls would wear a top that went down to their hips, and after the principal would say something to her or her assistant or the teacher, they would pull their shorts or their skirt down around, further around their hips. And of course, you couldn't tell it because they had hip length tops on. And we had a real problem with that because you'd see the little girls and their shorts and dresses would be way up on their thighs. And yet, when you address the issue, they were down where they were supposed to be. So all this gets kind of complicated when you're having to regulate it in the school.
We'd have some sports that wouldn't be able to play if we went to the end of the fingertips.
Yeah, that's true. Volleyball.
Volleyball, I never have figured out those.
I don't like it.
All right, the next one is care of school property. TSBA recommends adopting their more comprehensive policy. Wait till it opens. Okay, you'll see in lines 7 and 8, TSBA just did not include a definition of school policy. Staff would like to keep lines 7 and 8. We would like to keep that definition. TSBA added an appeals process in lines 15 through 18, where a student or parent can dispute damages and meet with the director of schools. Staff would like to add the words, or his or her designee, otherwise Dr. Flannery may not get anything else done. And so those are in blue. They recommend that we remove language about paying through voluntary work from lines 19 through 21. This may have been a provision in state law at one time, but it's no longer there. In its place, they've added a meeting with the director about payment or an agreement in lines 20 through 23. Staff would like to add the words his or her designee employee. We recommend passing on first reading.
Will this correspond when students start taking home devices?
Yes, ma'am.
Because this corresponds with that. Okay.
We also have the other policy, the take-home technology with textbooks, that talks about that too, but yes.
So that would back it up as well.
Everybody good?
Okay, the next one, 6.312, use of personal communication devices. The TSBA recommends removing all references to school personnel in this policy and adding it to an administrative procedures manual. Section 6 deals with students. Since that's all that they want to remove, we recommend passing on first reading.
How many people get suspended in a year for using cell phones during school? Hundreds?
They get them taken away, they get them back. Full-blown suspensions.
I never suspended for something.
So they can have them, but they just can't have them on.
Right.
Once you're on cell phone.
They've got them on.
Do you kind of police that like you do tobacco use?
Well, teachers in
A lot
classrooms
stricter on the back.
police it.
Huh?
A lot stricter in the back. You don't
Yeah, I
get-
know, but I mean, how many of those phones are off and how many of them are on?
No,
We don't know until they get them out and they're texting while I'm teaching, and then I know about it.
Everybody good?
Okay, this next one is super fun. We're gonna talk about corporal punishment. TSBA sent 2 policies down. Option A, you can keep it. Option B, we can get rid of it. Mr. Murphy and I met and he told the principals, and option B was the way to go. So that is up to you all, but we recommend option B.
Do any of the school systems in Northeast Tennessee still have corporal punishment? Most or a few?
very few. It's not a subject that comes up much in conversation because nobody does it.
Boy, just the thought of that used to keep me in line.
Back in the day.
Mary Beth used to spank them, boy, coming in and out of there.
Well, now, when I was there, that was the means of
Character building.
character building.
I'm a firm believer in it.
Well,
Don't sneak it.
So we good with B? Do you want a motion on that?
Probably do need a motion on this.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask for.
I'll make a motion for first on B.
Did you say D or B?
B, as in boy.
Okay.
Option B on 6.314.
I have a second.
I second.
I have a second. Any more discussion?
Well, did Dr. Flannery, Dr. Keith, do y'all, what's your offer recommendation? Given the language in both A and B.
I have told our principal not to allow it in their schools, and I personally have not done it since 1980.
So your recommendation would be to take B?
No corporal.
85, is that the year before you started teaching?
It was the second year. I failed on a few my first year, then I gave it.
Yeah, I've got a comment, but I ain't gonna say it.
Was that Keith both times? That was Keith both times?
No, he never did me.
I've heard that he got lined up time or two, but I never actually did.
I
got lined up one time for swinging the end of the stitching cords that's hanging down from the ceiling. We got in trouble for doing that. So,
You should.
well, you know, that's part of life. Okay, I have a motion and a second on B. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger, Mr. Fleener,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yep.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Irvin.
No. You got to put the fear in. You ain't got some fear in them, you're gonna get run over.
So we can,
Okay, the next one's detention. TSBA recommended maintaining our current policy, but when Mr. Murphy and I reviewed this, he would like to add the due process procedures to it, because these students still need to go through due process for detention, so that language is in blue, and we recommend passing on first reading.
this week, the way I read this eliminates lunch detention. It's either before or after school. Right? Or it really doesn't say that, but that's the way I just wondered that. But it says doesn't exceed 1 hour after, but I didn't know if we could get away with the, doing away with the
I
lunch
think
detention.
this is just saying
Maybe
that,
lunchtime suspensions, that's a good tool for principals.
Is it?
I think it's just saying that we can keep those kids outside of the school day, and that's why we need a policy for that.
Does that mess with the teacher's contract, making them stay over an hour for detention?
Principal has the flexibility to do that on occasion.
Principal or the teacher?
The principal can mandate that occasion, but it cannot be a regular.
Most of the time, it's such a rotation where it may not even be once a month. It's a lot of times just once a week detention.
Well, the question I had is, does that violate the principal's or the teacher's contract?
No.
No.
And it could be the principal staying there. Everybody good?
Well, I see what Mr. Fleener's saying, with that, number one, I mean, it does say students may be detained before or after the school day, which to me precludes detaining them in the middle of the school day.
May.
Not sure.
Well, yeah, that means that you may or may, but it doesn't.
You may get it at lunch, but I mean,
Well, but it doesn't say that, so.
but it doesn't not, I mean, it says you may, I guess if they choose not to do something else.
Before or after, but doesn't say anything about the middle. I mean, it's semantics, but, if we could just put in some language, may be detained before, during, or after, or before, or after, or during the lunch period, then I think that.
If we were to add something, we just add another sentence, as the students may serve lunch detention.
Okay.
If it's lunch detention, it's not gonna be 1 hour. 20 minutes, 20 minutes.
Mitch, I like your clarity, buddy. Lock out.
Always looking out for us.
Lock out.
Chad started it.
That's all.
You're gonna run into, kids who can't be picked up before, or can't be brought before, or stay after school. They have to ride the bus home, they have no other transportation. So the lunch detention is the option the principals have when they run into that issue.
Yeah, I think we want to make sure we can keep it in there.
Okay, next one.
Everybody good?
Great.
6.316, suspension. TSBA recommends adopting their model policy, and they have lots of reasons. Their policy is more comprehensive as it includes detailed information regarding suspensions and expulsions. Information regarding zero tolerance behavior has been removed line 1, TSBA included a new heading and removed the reasons for suspensions. In line 2, they removed principal, teacher, and assistant principal as being able to suspend students. This language is in Tennessee Code annotated, and staff wants it to stay. So in line 2, we would like to keep that. In lines 3, 4, and 6, they removed defining language. In line 8, they removed truancy as a sufficient reason for suspension. In lines 14 through 15, they rephrased language so that it's clarified. In line 16, they added that students could be suspended for marking, defacing, or destroying school property, which is important. In line 19, they added school bus driver and other school personnel rather than just verbal assault on a principal or teacher. In lines 22 through 25, they added language about making a false report or bomb threat. In lines 1 through 2 on page 2, they added language about physical attack on other students. In lines 6 through 23, they added the due process requirements, which we absolutely need. In lines 33 through 35, they added language about suspension longer than 5 days. On page 3, they added language about suspension for longer than 10 days. And just, it's important to note that anything in red during the zero tolerance will be in the zero tolerance policy. So it's not going away.
Mr. Clay?
I have two questions. What about setting off fireworks in the parking lot? All right, let's go back to the very first. I have a question there. A principal, and you struck all this other stuff, if the principal were out of town or something for the day or the week, should it say, or his appointee?
We could change it to that, but we want to keep that language. That, I just put the line through it because TSBA did not include it.
She's gonna keep it.
Why do you want to keep principal dash teacher or assistant principal?
Principal teacher would be, let's say at Fall Branch, you have one principal. That principal needs to be out of building. That principal needs to be able to appoint a teacher in charge of it.
His appointee, that would be his appointee.
That would be, wouldn't that be the designee?
We could change it to that. if you want that.
I mean, that leaves it with the principal. If you put those words in there, then, you know, an assistant principal could suspend without, I mean, I don't think you do that, without the principal's acquiescence.
That part, I think, is just saying from a specific class. It's not from a specific program. So, yeah,
Oh, okay.
designee can do it.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe I'm wondering about something like inappropriate use of a cell phone.
It's covered elsewhere, isn't it?
Turn your cell phone off.
So, principal or. Anything else with
Everybody
this
good?
one? The next one, admission of suspended or expelled students, is a brand new policy from TSBA. And this policy deals with, let's say we have a student come in the middle of the school year and want to be admitted to our schools, but they've been suspended from another school district. This policy deals with that. So it's aligned to Tennessee Code annotated, and it allows us to make the decision and do an investigation into why that student was suspended in another school district. We would like to add, or his or her designee, so that Dr. Flannery can appoint someone.
What would show up, they would come in and they could just tell you their records, when their records come, that was, they're not probably gonna tell you, I've been suspended from Sullivan County, but.
No, but we would see what their scores, and they are supposed to disclose them.
Right, okay.
And they're supposed to disclose each of them.
Dr. Keys, 6.206, will you flag it to look at?
6.206?
It's about transfers within the system, but it kind of goes hand in hand. Well, not really hand in hand, but close about this, and see if we can talk about
Oh,
that
they
next
don't, I
time.
don't see that on this list. And
No.
they're like, "Oh, it's fine."
And what this says is if a student's been suspended in another school system or another district, then we don't have to accept them, unless their original suspension period has lapsed. So if the student was suspended for a year and came here, we could keep them out, but then when they came back in the fall, they could conceivably.
Mr. Chairman, we typically will allow a student to enroll in the school system, but they are immediately remanded to the alternative school to serve out their sentence. And by doing so, we get BEP funding. So it's in our interest to not have to put every one of these in front of the school board.
So do you want to take that out to where the board doesn't approve or deny?
It's up to the board, but I just assume you left it with, at the discretion of the director.
We have a little girl at the alternative school right now that threatened to bring a gun into Science Hill, and I met her and her family, and we put her up at the alternative school, and she's doing fine. We have close supervision of her. She's in a classroom with a very small student-teacher ratio, and like Dr. Flannery said, it gives us BDP funds, and it gives the child a chance too. But she will not go back to school. More than likely, she'll graduate from Midway.
On that line one, then we just put the director may deny admission instead of the board.
Well, I think if you go down to 4, 5, and 6, that's what I'm getting ready to ask Dr. Flannery, because what it sounds like is that any student who's applied, who's been expelled within their suspension period, you're required to bring that to the board.
That's what that says, but
Yeah.
that's just in policy, that's not law.
But that's our policy, is what I'm saying.
Could
Right.
be.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's fine. You know, and you're gonna come in and make the recommendation and just keep it at check and balance.
It will be a regular item on the agenda.
Right.
This board.
The consent agenda,
Could be.
just like the,
You know, it being with a student, I don't know, I want to consent to.
I mean, I just thought, well, we could pass it and not have to throw it out in front of, just like the field trips and stuff like that.
Now that I think about it, we can't put a kid's name on the consent agenda like that if they're involved in a disciplinary issue. We almost have to have a closed hearing.
Dr. Flannery, they've added it to state law, that's why they recommended it in here. I've got the Tennessee Code annotated, and it just says the director of schools for the school system in which the suspended student requests enrollment shall make a recommendation to the local board of education to approve or deny the request. The recommendation shall occur only after investigation of facts, blah, blah, blah. So if the recommendation is to deny admission, and if the local board approves the director's recommendation, the director of school shall, on behalf of the board of education, notify the commissioner.
We'll have to be careful then, not that we'll just have to say like student A or student B, you can't put a kid's name in the agenda. That sounds like you're gonna have to adopt this no matter what I think. Something else for the board to do later.
Our meetings are short anyway.
You all want to roll call vote on this then?
Them going forward, you better say you'll have to wait until the next board meeting or not.
I did one last year, and the year before that,
So I'm gonna put this, let's do a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion.
I think you got a motion, Chad?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
Motion for what?
To approve the 6.318 on first read.
Okay. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Fleener?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yep.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Aye. Okay, sis.
Okay, the next one is a format update only, it's student guidance program, so we do not have to take any kind of action with that one. I just wanted you to see I've updated it to the new format, and if there's anything that you want changed.
know our guidance has changed from what it was 10, 15 years ago. But I wished we'd done a better job of trying to help them if they did have secondary school needs, which I think that was some of the case beforehand. But I don't know that they even have the time for it now in the high schools.
Very good.
Do guidance counselors, or don't they have a curriculum that they have to,
KA thing.
KA,
High
right,
schools,
okay.
Okay, the next one, 6.4001, student surveys. It was, TSBA recommends maintaining our current policy, so it's only a formality. No action required.
Very good.
The next one, that is why Ms. Wagner's back there in the corner. She's here because Student Health Services is up for first reading. TSBA recommends maintaining our current policy. However, on review, Ms. Wagner has recommended some changes to update the policy. These recommended changes are in blue and along with school health guidelines and state board requirements. In lines 3 through 6, the objective has been updated, and information in red from lines 7 through 8 has been integrated. In line 13, students will replace them because the pronoun them is unclear. In lines 17 through 18, athletic trainers maintain this documentation for coaches, not coordinated school health. This is a requirement by TSSAA and does not need to be a policy. Line 5 replaces line 1 on page 2. Lines 20 through 21 and 8 through 9 on page 2 consolidate the remaining red lines. We have a separate policy for information in lines 2, 3, and 4 on page 2. Staff recommends passing on first reading.
Now, I'm gonna ask this question, is that up to date, as of today, as far as the COVID-19 and all this, the way they're changing stuff, is that,
Everything that's in that policy would be applicable, at the current situation. Because it's just student health services, we have a response plan for the coronavirus, which we would implement.
okay,
Okay, the next.
okay, everybody good with it?
6.402, physical examinations and immunizations. TSBA recommended adopting their model policy. The recommended policy is more comprehensive as it includes additional information regarding screening tests and parental consent. TSBA has added a legal reference for physical examinations in line 1. There's a new legal reference for physical examinations in entering schools in lines 3 through 4. They have removed language about students with no health record who are entering school. TSBA added new language in lines 10 through 15 to align to health screening guidelines. In lines 20 through 22 through 25, they have changed child to student. In lines 27 through 28, they require that schools keep a list of transfer students for possible monitoring by the Department of Health. Staff recommends passing on first reading.
Very good.
Make a motion, we accept on first reading this policy.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
You all want me to roll call vote it then? Since we're doing that, I have a motion, I guess I have to. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Ganger?
Aye.
Mr. Flinger?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yeah.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Earl?
Okay.
The next one, 6.404, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS policy. TSBA recommends adopting their model policy. Policies are similar, however, the recommended policy contains a provision regarding infection control for state board policy. This can be seen on page 2, lines 33 through page 3, line 6. So you're gonna see a lot of change with this policy. Our current policy mentions an evaluation team on page 1. The recommended policy does not contain a provision regarding an evaluation team, and TSBA does not recommend this language due to potential ADA concerns. If you look at the legal reference on page 3, reference 1, it's out of date, it was 1995. So the policy is updated to align with current law. We recommend passing on first reading.
Very good.
Next.
Okay, medicines. Lots of change on this one, so be prepared. TSBA recommends adopting their model policy because it contains new sections regarding blood glucose self-checks, students with pancreatic insufficiency or cystic fibrosis, and students with adrenal insufficiency. This can be seen at the bottom of page 2 and all of page 3 in green. Staff would also like to add language to update this policy. In lines 1 through 2 on the first page, we would like to add information about medicine from the guidelines for healthcare in a school setting from 2019. In line 14, TSBA's model policy added the name of a physician. Staff would also like to add that contact information. In line 21, TSBA added language about possible side effects of medication. TSBA excluded in line 24 parent guardian contact information. This also cannot be found in the legal reference. Staff agrees that it can be removed since we have parents' contact information in our record. TSBA excluded language in line 25 that staff believes is important. The school health guidelines state that medicine must be brought in a labeled container. Medicine should be unopened and in the original container if it is over-the-counter medication, because otherwise we cannot verify what it is. Staff added language in lines 28 through 32 from the school health guidelines about students retaining medication for immediate self-administration, such as an asthma inhaler. On page 2, TSBA used principal rather than administrator. Line 3 now includes guardian. In lines 7 through 9, TSBA excluded the language in blue. Staff needs this language to remain in policy and it aligns to the school health guidelines on destroying medication if it is not picked up. On line 14, TSBA excluded a legal reference to the school health guidelines that needs to remain. Lines 17 through 26 on page 2 include the required information on blood glucose self-checks. Lines 27 through 31 on page 2 have the cystic fibrosis and pancreatic insufficiency. Lines 32 through page 3, line 14 is information regarding the administration of medication to treat adrenal insufficiency and is required by state board policy. Lines 15 through 18 require the director to develop administrative procedures on the administration of medication that treat adrenal insufficiency, and we recommend passing on first reading.
Everybody good? We're gonna do one more, Ashley, because I've got 2 board members that needs to leave. Is that okay with everybody?
Well, these next 3 are format update only. So no action are required on student psychological services, student social services, or supervision of students. But I do want to look at supervision of students 6.40.
We'll just hold it for the next time and you go over that one that you want to go over. Okay, go ahead.
6.408, supervision of students, TSBA wanted to delete it, and principals want it in there, because they reference it with their staff every in-service at the beginning of every year, telling them that they are responsible for supervising students. I know it seems like it's common sense, but it's not. So it needs to stay. And that's the last one.
Is everybody good with that one?
You don't have to take any action on it unless you want to delete it.
Okay.
So now we've got to go back and
I need a motion to accept all the ones that you first read.
6.405, 6.404, 6.402. David, you already done 401, so 4001. No, that's maintained, never mind.
I think, you all got 6.402, we need 6.401, student health services.
Okay.
Did we, I mean, did we do 6.30607, 310, 311? I mean, I thought we,
We did some of them.
I mean, I thought we just did, 6318. Number 9 and number 13 on this.
6, 9, 13, that's what I got.
Yeah, corporate country.
So do you want me to read all?
Yeah, read them all, back.
6.306, 6.307, 6.310, 6.311, 6.312, 6.316, 6.40, okay, 6.401, 6.404, 6.405.
I'll make
Okay.
a motion, we accept all them on first reading.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion on them? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Meredith,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Ganger,
Aye.
Mr. Fleener,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dellinger,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yeah.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Aye. Okay, everybody. Good meeting.
We adjourn?
I got one question I need to ask the board. Mr. Flannery sent me a text saying that June the 30th, it's lifted and we can go back to
Yes,
regular board meetings.
we have to.
We have
Yeah,
to?
you can't meet,
Give me a
like,
little
the next meeting in a minute.
All right. Can we have our board meetings, I'm asking, can we have the board meetings down here and social distancing? Do we still carry that on, or do you all wanna go back upstairs to the round part? How do y'all wanna?
If we're gonna let kids go back to school, and they ain't gonna be able to social distance, then I think we need to go
We
up
have
top.
to have an audience too, I mean, don't we? We have to open it up.
Mr. McLean, you had a question?
Let's point to upstairs.
Okay, upstairs.
Mr. Chairman, you can restrict the number of guests if you want.
Well, what do y'all, how do y'all feel? I'm asking the board's opinion.
Go back to normal.
Normal?
Well, I think you follow, I mean, you've got two things going on. You've got the meeting requirements that the governor's lifted, but then what are the ramp up guidelines that we're still operating under? I mean, I don't know if in July we're at 50% or 100%, you know, in terms of restaurants, et cetera, so.
I don't think you can get 50 in that room upstairs anyway.
Well, but I mean, do you, you know, block off one chair and have people staggered? You know, well, and I think we follow whatever our health department says. That's what I would suggest.
You follow them, you never tell anything.
Amen.
But yeah, we meet upstairs. I think that, I mean, the bottom line question is where
We'll
we
be
meet.
prepared for a meeting in the book.
Okay. All right, we're going back up there. And we'll decide something about the guests. Meeting adjourned.